he looks so demonic right now.
Hi, and welcome to February's episode. I know that it came out rather close to my last episode, but that's because this cat house project that I did last month really drained me creatively. So I wanted to do something that was going to be a little bit smaller and a little bit less time consuming for me this month. And that gives me a little bit of a break before I start on another big project. I also wanted to get something out in time for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day isn't my favorite holiday. I never really celebrate it. It's actually my least favorite holiday, but I still wanted to give you my take on it. So I wanted to pick a project that was gonna mesh my love of creepiness with my love of nature and kind of do something that'll mix the two. So I'm gonna show you how I made these snake earrings and also this snake brooch, along with a jewelry box for it to go in, and you can make them for your loved ones. It doesn't have to be for Valentine's Day, it can be for any occasion. And as always, if you do try this project, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll get right into the episode. I picked up a small wooden box from my local craft store and got to work by removing all of the metal accessories so I could start painting. I used my glasses screwdriver since the screws were so small and it worked perfectly. I sanded down any of the rough edges that were still on the box with fine grit sandpaper. And then I started painting with matte black acrylic paint. I made sure to cover the entire box, and once it was dry, I did go back and touched up anywhere that may have needed it. Once your box is all painted, you can set it aside to dry and then start making the accessories that will go on the inside. I couldn't decide on making a brooch or a set of earrings, so I'll show you how I did both. Let's do the earrings first. I measured out 2 even amounts of polymer clay. You may have to play around with the portions of the clay to get the size brooch or earrings that you want. Then I rolled them out with the base of my palm into the snake shape that I'm looking for, leaving the one end thinner for its tail. Next, I took the end of the clay that would be the head of the snake and folded it over. Using the heat from my hands, I just smoothed over the fold line until it disappeared. I also used my thumb and pointer fingers to shape the head of the snake. I wanted to make a pattern on the snake to look like scales, so I used the top of my X-Acto knife to roll lightly over the clay. I lost the cap to mine, so please be careful if you do this. I made sure to lightly roll over all sides and the bottom as well. Then I shaped my snake into what I wanted my earrings to look like. I took a sculpting tool, which I'm sure has a technical name for that I don't know what it is, and I used it to make little eye sockets for the jewels that I plan on gluing in there. Now it was time to make the second earring. I did the same things, rolled out my clay, folded over where I wanted the head to be, smoothed everything out, made some scales from my X-Acto knife, and little eye sockets with that sculpting tool thing. The only thing that I changed was how the snake was laying. I wanted his curves to be in the exact opposite direction, and that's just the way I prefer the look of the earrings. But have fun with this and play around with it and see what you like. I then moved on to the brooch. I again did all of the same steps, but with a little more clay this time because I wanted him to be slightly bigger. I also wanted him to be less curvy, so I played around until I got the pose that I liked. I purchased this clay mold and it had all sorts of leaves and flower petals. I decided to make some in black and green clay. I'm going to be using these leaves and petals for the brooch and also to decorate our jewelry box. I then baked my snakes, leaves, and flowers according to the instructions on my clay. Once they cooled down, I was ready to glue on the snake's eyes. I took some gems that are flat on one side. They're actually ones that I purchased that can be ironed on for clothing. I used Loctite super glue, and as long as you're really careful with it against the clay, I have had no problems with it, but if you're nervous about that, feel free to use a glue gun as well. I like the Ultra Gel Control because it comes out very slowly. I also used the tip of my pencil to kind of position the gems exactly where I wanted it. As soon as you touch that Loctite glue, it's really hard not to get your finger stuck to it, so be very careful. Once all the snakes had eyes, I started to design my brooch. I took the green leaves and positioned them where I liked them, and then slowly glued them into place. I still thought it needed something a little extra, so I used some moonstones that I purchased on Etsy and little prong sets that I've had for so long I can't even remember where I got them. I placed the moonstones in the prongs and bent them over the stone. Next, I just glued the stones into place, and it was definitely the extra touch that it needed. Now it's time to glue on the backings for the brooch and the earrings. I just ordered all of these supplies online. I like to get the pin backs with the safety locks so they don't fall off like the rubber ones sometimes do. And then I just add a little bit of the Loctite glue to the back of the snakes where I want to set the backings, and then I let them dry fully. Now that our accessories are done, we can get back to working on our jewelry box. I usually use wax as a sealant, but I wanted to give Mod Podge a chance, and I actually really liked it. I coated the entire box inside and out with one generous layer. Once that was dry, I looked inside the box to make sure there were no leaks around the bottom or in the lid. I'm going to be filling them up with resin, so I don't want anything seeping out. If you do happen to find a gap, take your hot glue gun and run it over the spots that are needed to be sealed. I just placed moss all along the bottom of the box and the lid until I liked how it really looked. Now it was time to mix up the resin. I gathered a few extra craft sticks along with some red cups for mixing. I have a few things to say about resin. I really like what it produces. I hated working with it. I also didn't have gloves, so be careful not to have skin contact and work in a well-ventilated area. If you work with resin more often than just once or twice here or there, you may want to look into further precautions. You will get 1 bottle of resin in your package and also a bottle of hardener. The instructions are to mix equal parts and stir for several minutes, but please read your instructions carefully when mixing this. I mixed it a little too quickly and had some air bubbles come up. There are tons of suggestions online on how to get rid of them before the resin hardens, but I really wanted to keep some since I was going for a water look. Now that the resin has hardened, it's time to put the box back together. I added some additional moss to set the jewelry on top of, and then I put the backings on my pin and earrings now that they're all dry. I still think it needed something, so I took a small piece of Velcro and stuck one side on a clear quartz crystal and the other side directly on the resin. The reason I didn't glue the crystal down is because I wanted to be able to use the crystal. Clear quartz is a great way to protect against negative energy, but feel free to glue yours in place if you like. I also didn't want it rolling around in the box and damaging the pieces we made, so I wanted to make sure it would stay in one spot. I didn't really like how far the lid was opening, so I took 2 pieces of black chain, some jump rings, and some small screws to fix this. I attached the jump rings to each side of the chain so that I could screw it to the sides of the lid in the box. I didn't think of adding the chains until later in the project, so I probably would have pre-drilled the holes had I thought of this at the beginning. I did have to use a little bit of elbow grease and overcome some frustrations to get these installed. For the earrings, I just took a black piece of cardstock and poked some small holes in there to put the earrings in, and then took a white paint marker to doodle what I wanted it to say. You can get pretty creative with this part. You could write down "we are a perfect pair," or settle on something simple like I did where I just wrote "me and you." Okay, now we just have one more thing to do before we're done. I wanted to get some small decorations on the top of our jewelry box, but feel free to leave it plain if you like. I took the black flower petals and leaves that I made along with another moonstone and positioned and glued them where I wanted them with the Loctite glue. This is another area where you can really have a lot of fun and make it as simple or intricate as you like. And now it's official. Our project is complete. Let's take a look.